The last feature I want to explore in this module with you is the feature of navigation guards. Navigation guards can be useful if you add features like authentication, where you, for example, want to avoid that a user is able to access a certain route if he or she is not authenticated. But they can also be useful to simply be aware of changing pages in case you want to run some code there, or they can be useful to ensure that a user doesn't accidentally navigate away from a page where he or she has unsaved edits in a form, for example. We'll see practical examples for guards in the course project, but of course, since this is the introductory module to routing, I'll start showing you all those guards in this module already. Now, what exactly do I mean when I say guards? I'm talking about functions, methods, which are called automatically by ViewRouter when a page changes, or to be precise, when a navigation action started. For example, on the router we're creating in main.js, on this main router, before we pass it to our View app, we can call before each, like this. Before each is a built-in method, and it wants a function as an argument. Before each wants a function as an argument. And this function will be called by the ViewRouter whenever we navigate from one page to another. Before each navigation action, this function will be called. And this function will then receive three arguments from ViewRouter. To, which is the route object of the page we're going to, from, which is the route object of the page we're coming from, and next, which is a function which we have to call to either confirm or cancel this navigation action, because that's something we can do in navigation guards, which is why they are called guards. We can cancel a navigation if we're not happy with it. If we, for example, want to deny the navigation because the user is not authenticated. Now, how could this look like? First of all, I'm going to console log to and from so that we see what we're getting there, and then I'll call next like this with no special setting. I will also console log global before each to make it clear that we're in this globally on the entire router registered before each hook. If I save that, reload and clear the console, and I go to users, we see global before each in the console, and then we see two logs. Now, one of these logs is coming from the scroll behavior, so to avoid confusion, I'll comment this out, and to avoid that my IDE complains about the unused to and from, I'll replace that with an underscore and underscore to, which is basically an indicator that I have to take these arguments in order to reach the third one, but that I don't plan on using them. That's something my IDE and my local setup will accept. So these are just argument names following a convention that signals to the setup that I need to use these arguments, but I don't plan on using them. So with that, if I reload and we switch from users to teams now, we see global before each and then one log with the to and the from route object. To, of course, is having the teams path because we're going to teams, and from has users. And other than that, we see nothing special, because I just called next like this. And if you call next like this, you allow the navigation, you confirm it. You can also pass false to next though, and that will cancel the navigation. Let's try that. If I save that, we already see when I reload, there's nothing on the screen, because loading the page failed because I canceled this initial navigation. If I try to go to users, we get no error. We see our global before each method runs, but again, we see nothing on the screen, because with false, we canceled this. Now here, of course, that's not too useful because we're canceling all navigation here, but later in the course project, we'll also see how we could use that feature in combination with checking whether the user is authenticated or not to cancel or allow this. We also have a third option for next here. Besides passing nothing or false, we can also pass either a string or a location object in here. A string with a route we want to navigate to, which of course should then be one of the routes we registered up there. Or such a navigation object which describes that, for example by using the name and then maybe setting up any parameters. Like here, I could make sure that every navigation action leads to a route with the name team members and the team ID set to T2. Which of course makes absolutely no sense, but I just want to show you how that works. However, make sure you don't save and reload here, because you would create an infinite loop. Because even when we go to this route, because we redirect here, we would then again redirect us. So here we should then actually check if toPath or toName is equal to team members. So if we are already going to the team members page, in which case I want to call next, and only else if we're going to a different page, I want to forward, I want to redirect to team members. And now we can save this and reload. And we now always end up on this Teams T2 page if we try to go anywhere else but to another team member. That would also work. But if I try to go to users, I still end up on Teams T2 because of this global before each hook. Now, I will say it again. This, of course, is no logic that really makes sense in this demo project, but it is important that you understand how this navigation guard works, what the next method does in there, and how you can use it. With that, however, I'm going to comment this out and just call next like this to confirm the navigation so that we don't redirect us to just one kind of page. Instead, now we can navigate around as we're used to, but you now have a first idea of what a navigation guard is able to do. And as you might imagine, that can be useful if you want to check whether the user is authenticated and prevent access to certain page if he or she is not authenticated. That would be a typical scenario which we are going to see later.